shaking things out here, getting ready for another great episode today.
Absolutely. We have an unbelievable guest, Keith, and I'm excited to welcome Jeff Cole of SIA. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me on the program, Neil and Keith. Great to be here and talk a little about SIA and SIA's security megatrends. So happy to be joining you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was taking a look at the security megatrends, and I can't believe we're already approaching the end of the first quarter in 2021. This year is really moving fast.
You're right. It's a fast moving industry too, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of jump right in, Jeff, and tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I work for SIA as the Senior Director of Marketing and have a number of roles within SIA. Besides marketing, one of those is producing events like Securing New Ground and our Thrive conference, as well as the Security Megatrends report. So this is an annual research report that we've published now for 4 years at SIA that really documents the 10 top trends within the industry. Myself, I've been in the security industry since, mid 2004 and been covering the industry, providing reporting and analysis, and joined SIA, 4.5 years ago. Be closing on 5 years very soon. So, and we've been creating a number of research projects that SIA has produced for some years, whether it's our bi-monthly SIA's Security Market Index that gives a pulse of the industry and the sort of the confidence. We do partnerships with a number of other research organizations to provide SIA members data about where the industry is headed. And this is one of the research products that we produce on our own that really documents the top 10 trends that are shaping the industry from a fundamental level, if you will.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You've got some really cool things happening that you guys are projecting and looking at, not just for 2021, but also looking forward. What do you have on the list there?
Well, we've got a lot of great stuff on the list, and part of that is because, as I mentioned, we are in a fast-moving industry. This is a high-tech industry. It's an IoT industry. So, just to run through some of the trends that we found for our 2021 security megatrends. Again, this report was released at the very end of 2020, forecasting into this year. I'll start at the bottom, right? Top 10 list. The number 10 megatrend was a move to service models. And let me, before I jump in, Neil and Keith, just to explain. So we produce this every year in advance of the Securing New Ground event, which is a high-level executive event in the security industry, held for, over 25 years historically in New York City. Obviously, we've pivoted to virtual in the last year and are looking forward to eventually being back in New York someday. It was launched by Sandy Jones and a number of her colleagues, so many years ago. And SIA has contributed to that and taken the reins and kept that event growing and delivering the information. So in advance of that event, we compile the security megatrends. We do a number of research. We reach out to our members. We reach out to our executive councils. We do a lot of surveying of our members, of executives within our member companies, but also past S&G attendees, S&G speakers, or some of the thought leaders in the industry to compile it. And we rank those trends. Now, it's not a sweeping overhaul every year. So every year, some of the trends move around, some drop off, some come on. And so this year, I'll run through where we are, and we can stop at any time as you guys want and dive into these. So number 10, move to service models. So this is really a trend that's been heavily seen within systems integrators, right, as they move from a pure product sales model to delivering continual services, and really kind of RMR, right, is tied into that as well. Number 9, data privacy. This is one that's really jumped into the megatrends in the last couple of years as our industry, which produces a lot of data, whether that's through the video systems like you offer, right, or through the access control systems. There's a lot of personal data that's happening, obviously, even to alarm systems, residential alarm systems. We get a lot of information about people within our member companies or our practitioners that are using it. And so there's an increased awareness every year that we have to protect that data. And CS has some great initiatives on that that you'll see as well. Responsive environments and intelligent spaces is number 8. And this is, you'll hear a few trends throughout today that have intelligence, right? And it'll culminate in our number 1 trend for 2021. But we are seeing the application of intelligence to make spaces more responsive to their human users, if you will. Number 7 also ties into intelligence, facial recognition. This has been a top trend for the last couple of years and continues to be so involved, either whether used for, at an access control level or obviously within the video surveillance systems within our industry. Number 6, no surprise, perhaps for 2021, touchless and frictionless solutions, right? As we sort of work within the constraints of a pandemic and sort of envision that post-pandemic world, I think we're going to see a lot more touchless and frictionless solutions. Number 5, cloud computing, been in the top of our trends for years. Perhaps no surprise there as our industry makes that I wouldn't say it's an immediate pivot, but a steady pivot over to the cloud solutions for a variety of different applications, including video and access spaces. IoT, I mentioned our industries. This is an IoT industry, right? And this has been a fundamental change of our industry. I think we've all been around the industry for a while. We've seen this. It goes back even perhaps a decade, right? As our industry has steadily moved devices that were not connected into a connected state, right? And put them on the internet and on corporate networks. And so that's been the fundamental change that's driving basic technology change within the industry. Number 3, predictive data analytics. So we talked earlier about data privacy, creating such a mountain of data. And now we're starting to figure out how do we interpret that data. Number 2, cybersecurity, cybersecurity of physical security. This was our number 1 trend for 2020, and it shifted spots to number 2 in 2021. But it's really still stays top of mind for most folks on a daily basis, whether that's the hacks that happen and cybersecurity failures that sometimes end up in the news. Very important point for our industry and for SEIA as in terms of our mission of ensuring the industry is educated on the importance of cybersecurity. And number 1, artificial intelligence, which I think personally is very exciting in terms of where our industry is headed as we AI enable most of solutions that are going to be faced within the security world. So those are the top 10, and we can dive into those as you wish. So.
All right, so
and that's your top 10 list for 2020, right?
Yeah, AI is number 1. Yeah, absolutely.
now,
And that
Keith,
AI covers a lot of ground, as you mentioned, for other items in the list. I mean, a lot of the items that are numbered on the list fall directly in under AI.
You're absolutely right, Keith. And as we wrote the report, well, that's one of the things we tried to explain, right? That AI, right? If you look at some of the top 10, and again, some spots you'd find them, right? Facial recognition, certainly. Responsive environments. Again, that's AI. Whether that's high level AI or basic level AI that's happening in there, that's working within there. You're going to see it obviously in predictive data analytics as we interpret that mountain of big data that sometimes is called and try to make that useful to our industry. And you're even seeing it, I would say, within trends like cybersecurity, right? AI enablement of cybersecurity to identify threats, right, coming in. I think it's also being used on the flip side, and I think that's a fear our industry has, is that threat actors will leverage AI to attack systems. And then, of course, even in trends like cloud computing, you're seeing whether there's sometimes AI at the edge, right, within the edge devices, and sometimes you need that central computer processing and to be able to power some heavy AI on the cloud level.
Now, I wanted to show this list here because there's a lot of good information in the Megatrends report. You see investment information. I wanted to point out, if you go find this Megatrends report at the Security Industry Association website, you'll see right down here at the bottom some takeaways that are really nice. This helps kind of to summarize what you're talking about here. But you've got lots of different ground to cover just in artificial intelligence alone. I like this up at the top where you talk about near-term applications, versus next level AI, because AI, artificial intelligence, is still a growing trend. There's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of new things that are coming up that we won't even see in 2021. It will grow into years beyond, into the decade that's up and coming, correct?
I think you're absolutely right. I think we are just at the early stages of AI really impacting the security industry. Steve Van Til, who's the president and CEO of Brivo, and who's our advisor on the Security Megatrends project at SIA, he notes you're seeing AI in property management, obviously in healthcare, in retail, financial applications as well. And in security, we tend to be we are a very fast moving and high tech industry, but we're also an industry that operates with a lot of trust, right? So we have to make sure we trust those algorithms and trust those platforms.
Exactly.
So I think, yeah, you're going to see this change. This is not a 1-year trend, right? This is a decade long trend, if you will. Well, one of the, I'll jump in there. One of the data points that we saw in our AI research was we asked at Securing New Ground, we asked a lot of the companies that are in the industry producing solutions and products. We said, how would you characterize your firm's investment in AI? And we've compared that now year over year, and the increase in investment was actually really substantial. And so we're now seeing that over a quarter of companies classified their investment as heavy AI investment. And in fact, 3%, and this is perhaps even more telling, is that all of their investment in R&D is tied to AI. 3% of companies, and that's quite substantial.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you give us a scenario of that, Jeff, using AI with security? Yeah.
I turn it back to you guys as well. I mean, you have some video partners, but I mean, certainly, let's use a scenario of video surveillance, right? And if we look at sort of the history of video cameras, video security, creating data, recording it to a variety of different devices over the different years, and then it was really on human operators to then interpret that data, right? Security officers, trained security officers, security professionals. As we've created more and more video, right, and it's getting astronomical in the amount of video that we create, we're requiring that to be processed by some level of AI, right? Whether that's basic level AI to identify is that an object in the scene, or advanced AI to recognize that really what's happening in the situation, but also to apply sort of what is the next step that should happen within a security response. Put those rules in place and that intelligence.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's go to another one. I've really enjoyed it looking at AI, but also cybersecurity, which was #1 the year before. But what do you it continues to stay at the top, and what do you think the reasons are, Jeff?
The reasons for that, so many reasons. I would say the #1 reason is that if you don't keep it among the top of your concerns, you risk your entire business, you risk your reputation. One of the things that SI has seen in cybersecurity, I think sometimes this report and some of the work that's been done is you tend to position cybersecurity as it's a technology question, right? Do we have the technology for cybersecurity? SIA has a cybersecurity advisory board, great team there, and that's really kind of become the thought leaders within the industry around cybersecurity. One of the things that they've emphasized, and they've got an upcoming event with a CSO for a major university, they've really talked about the fact that cybersecurity is not about technology. It's about the people, it's about your peers, and it's even about your partners, right? And as you work on partner ecosystems, how do you trust them, right? And their level of cybersecurity? Because, well, I'm sure, as to flip it around with Linsec, right? I mean, you've got a lot of great partners, as we were talking about. You've got to be able to trust their cybersecurity, and your customers have to trust their cybersecurity as an extension of your system as well. So
that goes for our technology partners that are contributing either to our product or an open architecture platform, or to connected systems to create a unified security platform. But it also falls on our security integration resellers, our value-added resellers, because they're actually on the ground and installing equipment and systems and software at the end user locations. So they have to have the right creds and the right chops, so to speak, to be able to do the installation in such a way that they're protecting the end users. It's all a trickle down from the top straight through to the end user.
And Keith, I don't know what you're hearing, but one of the things that we've certainly heard within the industry over the last couple of years is there's a lot of need on training in terms of cybersecurity for those integrators and for their field staff as well. Is that what you're hearing also?
Yeah, I mean, training is key, and having the right personnel that knows what they're doing when it comes to that is a big part of it. Part of it is in getting the right systems in place to make sure that you're protected. When you're talking about threats to physical security, ransomware, malware, phishing. I see this stat that you have here: 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. Small businesses don't have the resources for a huge defense when it comes to cybersecurity. So we, as their partners, need to make sure that they are taking the right steps to protect their own system.
You're 100% there. And actually, when you look at the security industry, particularly within the integration community, most of the businesses within our industry would be considered small businesses. So one of the things that SIA is doing, and we've got some great partners on this, is we're actually in the process of developing a cybersecurity certification that's going to be released the summer this year. And you'll see some more info on that in the coming months. But we're working with some great folks there, the PSA Security Network team over there, as well as Ray Coulombe and Security Specifiers, representing the specifying and consulting community as well, to develop this certification that'll help. It's really helped certify the installing and the integration community, and help provide a level of trust that practitioners might have, that the people bringing in these IoT solutions, these physical security solutions that are all on the network, do have that cybersecurity knowledge that they would need to have.
Right. I like this takeaway you have here. The concern among business leaders like integrators and manufacturers whose systems are being added to customers' networks is that they do no harm by creating new cyber risk for their clients. Exactly. That's a big weight to carry on behalf of your customers.
It is. I mean, talk about a 180-degree pivot. Like, all of our solutions within our industry are meant to not only not do no harm, they're designed to help protect, right? So if your solution creates harm, then you're the opposite model of why they purchase your equipment and your solutions and your services in the first place.
Right.
All right. So now the cloud. I just picked a few of these. I mean, all these trends we could talk about anytime, but the cloud, the debate's coming on, right? 5G. When is security going to go finally to the cloud? We've heard so many different people's perspectives, but what about what you've learned?
Well, I think we could say that 2020 was the year of the cloud from an IT standpoint, right? I mean, the fact that we're on a Zoom call today, right, is illustrative of that. We've used so many cloud services, and it's more business services, whether there's email platforms or fundamental business tools, CRMs, et cetera, kind of move to the cloud. I think you're also seeing the security industry moving to that. Now, I think most of those business technologies have moved faster than the security industry, and there are a few reasons for that, right? I mean, years ago you could certainly say, oh, it's the nightmare about bandwidth, and it's true. Like, our systems, right, do tend to, like, particularly in the video area, do tend to create a lot of data, and thus you do face bandwidth challenges, particularly at remote sites or depending on what sort of the pipe is coming in. I think there's also, just to jump back to the previous trend we were discussing, cybersecurity questions, right? When you move to the cloud, right, you've got to protect the cybersecurity of the transfer of that data, as well as the long-term storage of that data, and you're trusting someone else to provide that. That can be both good and bad, right? It can be a little bit concerning for some folks to give up ownership, but also perhaps that provider may have great resources in terms of cybersecurity. I don't know, what's your take on that?
I mean, I think that the biggest problem, we're not totally going to the cloud, is cost. Cost is probably the biggest issue. Would you agree with me, Jeff?
I think it's definitely, so that's that recurring cost, right?
Right.
I think there's definitely an expectation of within some, you know, purchasers, right, that there's an appeal of one and done, right? I've bought the storage and I can store it on my site and manage it within my own team, whatever expertise they have. Um, and then, so yes, those the concerns of that recurring cost on that as well. So, but that also I think is a greater appeal depending on the type of organization. That some of them certainly want that cloud model because of the cost, because they can budget it as a recurring cost, a very fixed cost, where they don't have to do, you know, significant capital expenditure updates to perhaps refresh their storage system or bring in additional features into that.
It seems like also moving data back and forth between a cloud storage location and local systems are also still continue to be a big concern for, especially for video retention, because it's so bandwidth intensive. It takes a lot of performance capability and a high level of connectivity to move things back and forth quickly. I'm sure that is looking to improve in the coming years, especially with 5G connectivity and other high bandwidth connectivity. But are you still seeing that to be a lingering concern?
It is, and you know, Keith, you kind of brought in the point, right? As we have larger and larger pipes, greater bandwidth. The problem is, we also, right, as we all know, we steadily increase the resolution, right, and the amount of data we have, or the amount of cameras. So it's I think it's always going to be a little bit of a give and take in that area. So
Yeah.
don't
It's a scaling problem for sure. You know, it's scaled up and
yeah. I don't know that we'll ever solve that problem in a way.
Right.
And yeah, absolutely, you're going to have not only costs of the cloud storage, but you've got obviously the cost of, as you really open up larger data networks, you're going to have costs of transferring it.
I guess that's been a problem ever since we've been transitioning from analog to digital.
Right.
Yeah, and it kind of ties back to the AI trend, I think, in a way, is that there's been a lot of, as we've you know, seen greater and greater processing chips, right? You can do a lot more AI at the edge, but there are some sort of data analysis, right? Predictive data analytics, right? That only can really happen once you have the data in a centralized location, whether that's on-site storage or in a cloud storage environment, where you can look at that data as a whole, as opposed to, say, that one feed or that one data point coming from a single sensor.
Any other items on this list that are just like sleeper agents that you see as just really being powerhouse trends?
Oh, you know, I think they all are, right? It's, how do you have a favorite child here? You know, I think in the near term, the touchless and frictionless is a really interesting conversation. And one of the things that SIA is really having that conversation with is with property managers that are looking at perhaps their office buildings, and how do frictionless solutions change the future of access control, right? In a multi-tenant space. Mm-hmm.
That's good. And then again, then looking at cybersecurity and that with the certain access control with that data, and how they're going to get more and more data from the touchless entries and things like that, that you're going to have a lot of information which could be stolen too.
You're right, Neil, but I think that you said more information. I think that's what's really interesting and appealing to some of the larger property owners or property management companies, right? Is they can now use these systems, right, as opposed to just lock and unlock a door, right? They can now understand how many people are in their facilities, right? There are even technologies from CM members that are very cool that can tell, you know, how far apart, is social distancing happening, right, within your facility. So it becomes a facility usage as well as a health and safety tool. There can be health checks as they come in. So I think that's, you know, a lot of the sharpest companies in our industry are taking that approach of doing more and providing more value. Right. That's the story of our industry, right?
Exactly.
We started in security, and gosh, we're so much more than security these days.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. And best place we can catch up with you, Jeff, is go where?
Visit us online, securityindustry.org. SIA makes, whether you're a member or not, we make a lot of our research and reports and findings available to the industry to help, you know, elevate the industry's professionalism. And of course, if you're an SIA member, you get access to even more detail. So find us online.
Or we can see you at ISC West in the summer, right?
ISC West, July 19th through the 21st out in Vegas. So I think we're all looking forward to being back in person. So
Yes, it'll be interesting. And it's another conversation to talk about travel and everything soon. It's good news. We're starting to open up, and imagine just only a year ago, everything changed on March 21st for us. And now it's March 24th and a year later, and we're starting to get back to semi-normal. So that's a good thing.
that's right. Yeah. I think we're all ready to see everyone in face to face again, but also just make some new acquaintances, right? The magic that can sometimes only happen when you're in person.
Exactly. Well, we appreciate it, Jeff, and thanks for stopping by. We hope to see you again.
Glad to be on the program, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. That again was What's Your Perspective. You can go to lensec.com live to catch up with all the live episodes. Please like and share this video and like all our social media platforms, and we'll talk next week. So take care, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.